Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business First Wednesday for September. I'm Melissa Cobo from the Business Insight Center at the Central Library of Rochester and Monroe County. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please remember to mute your microphones and enter any questions into the chat. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. This presentation is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. And if you have registered for this event, you will receive an email with the presentation slides. Just a reminder, all services of the Business Insight Center and Carlson Center for Intellectual Property are free and available by appointment only. Do we have anyone from outside the Rochester area today? To answer in the chat. See how far away people come. Batavia, we have Batavia, New York. Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so far, Ohio wins for being the farthest away. A second Batavia, New York. Denver, Colorado, the next winner.
Really?
Yes. From Peter to everyone. Thank you, Peter, for visiting us. Okay. Oh, we got Palm Beach, Florida.
Wow.
By Greg Walsh. We still have a few people in the waiting room. But we're going to get started. I would like now to introduce you to Gina and Dorothy from the Small Business Development Center.
Cool. Good morning. Shall I get started? Thank you, Melissa. I'm very happy to have everyone here. It's exciting to hear how far away some people come from. Palm Beach, Florida. I could totally be there in January. And we're really happy to present this topic because we do feel that it is one that doesn't get enough attention when we're working with clients. So accounting typically is one of those things that people tend to shy away from. But we are with the Small Business Development Center, and for those topics and many more, we are here to help you. So before we actually get into the content, let me begin by giving you a little bit of insight about the Small Business Development Center. We're speaking from the SUNY Brockport Small Business Development Center. Although we're located in Rochester, New York, we're affiliated with the State University of New York at Brockport. The SBDC program since 1984 is taxpayer funded. In New York State, we do have 23 centers, but nationwide, there's 1,057. So those of you that are in different states like Florida, there is a robust Small Business Development Center program in Florida and around the country. And if you go to the SBDC site in Florida, you could find a counselor that can provide you with the same competent and free and confidential business assistance. We have over 200 plus certified and advanced certified advisors in our New York State program, which helps with things like business plan development. We work with small business startups, existing businesses, and helping with growth, and sometimes helping them to relocate or to vacate their business. We assist with things like business organizational formation and structure. So we talk about corporations, limited liability companies, should you be a DBA versus something else? And we help you walk through those structures with resources that we have and our knowledge base. We also have a marketing research network called the Research Network, where there are professional marketing research librarians that help us seek out information that you cannot Google, because they have access to databases that are tens and $20,000 a year to participate in. And they can actually find information that they dig it out in places on topics that perhaps I've never heard of. I can tell you that probably about a year and a half ago, I had a client that wanted to do Pacific whitetail shrimp farming. I said the same thing. What? Pacific whitetail shrimp farming, where you do it indoors. I didn't have a clue about it, so I put it into the research network. They weren't able to come up with a huge amount of info, but what they did do was connect me with where that program began with the Small Business Development Center in Ohio, who connected me to an operator doing exactly that that function in the Hudson Valley. So the Research Network can help you with resources and information, sample business plans, RMA annual studies to take a look at the industry. So the SBDC can be your resource to do that. You don't get there directly, but through us, we can certainly get you the marketing research you need. We also have an array of different publications that the SBDC does. For example, this is the social media publication. It comes in both digital and hard copy format. When you are a client of the SBDC, these publications are available to you. Recipe for Success, if you're selling food products. We have topics on government procurement, so that if you're thinking of selling to the government, we can guide you through that. Technology and business planning, we have a publication on that. Cybersecurity, okay? And then we have one that's called the Blueprint to Success. And in here is a lot of information about things like taxes, sales tax, forms of organization, what's the difference between an LLC and a C corporation. So these resources become available to you when you become a client of the Small Business Development Center. And again, this is free and confidential business assistance. We are taxpayer supported, so there will never be a bill in the mail to you. This is your tax dollars hard at work. As today, we're handling a workshop, so we do many workshops, seminars, and we also have training platforms like our EntreSkills platform. We can help with construction contractor assistant, government procurement, and selling to the government through our Bid Links program. So as you see, and I just touched on our top things that we do here. So I would encourage any of you that are serious about starting a business or growing your business to contact the Small Business Development Center for assistance that you may need in growing or establishing your business. So with that, let me get started. The accounting topic is near and dear to my heart. My college degree is in accounting, but I have worked in banking, financing. I've been a loan officer. I've worked in private sector. And so I have a pretty broad background in terms of accounting matters. And one of the things that I understand and see the most is that most of my clients have a very light or non-existent background or understanding of the accounting process. Now, this came to light when I was actually at the Onondaga Community College SBDC working there. And I had a client that came in with his financial statements. And he said, look at this profit and loss statement. It's showing that I have a loss, but I don't understand it because I got all this money in the bank. And he was a little bit bewildered until I started going through line item by line item and took a look at the fact that down here where this arrow is, he was deducting sales tax on his profit and loss statement. Now, he's deducting money that was not his to deduct. That would be a balance sheet line item because you're collecting it for the state and you're giving it to the state. It's never an expense to you. And I began to understand that people have some real challenges with understanding categories, like what belongs, what do I book to the balance sheet and what should be on my income statement or my profit and loss. So these matters can be handled through accounting software, but we also want to address the issue of understanding accounting, because if you don't have a basic understanding, sometimes it's hard to really decide how to use an automated system to help you keep track of expenses, inventory, and things of that sort. So today, what I wanted to begin with, because this is kind of a two-part series, today we're going to talk about different applications, software that you can use for your accounting process and function. People are usually familiar with QuickBooks, but there are other applications, some of them free, beyond QuickBooks. So today we want to do an introduction of other software that might fit your business size more applicably, okay? So we want you to know about them. We want you to explore them. And then we want you to come back at our first presentation in October and learn about the accounting function, where Dorothy Daniels and I will actually get into the function of accounting that will complement what you learned today. Okay, so if you don't have a clue, if you're not sure about the accounting function or what software to use, hopefully today and our next one, you will have some of those questions answered. Okay, so I mentioned QuickBooks. Intuit produces QuickBooks, which most accountants and bookkeepers generally say, well, let me put you in my QuickBooks system and we'll do that for your function, okay? But QuickBooks is great, but it's not necessarily the only software that would be appropriate for a business owner to use. Now, I am not an expert on QuickBooks. I know how to use it. I've taken my accounting classes for it, but I have an expert in-house. Her name is Dorothy Daniels. She is an advisor here with the SBDC, but she also owns a business where she does record keeping for others. And she is a certified expert in QuickBooks. So Dorothy, could you talk to us please about the benefits of QuickBooks and some of the pros and cons of things that you see? Unmute. There you go.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Gina, for inviting me to talk on this topic. As Gina mentioned, my name is Dorothy. I'm currently a COVID advisor with the Brockport SBDC, and I'm also the small business owner of On Point Bookkeeper, and I am the certified pro advisor with QuickBooks. My personal experience with bookkeeping started old school with the ledgers and the pencils and a supply of whiteout. And I moved on to Excel spreadsheets for a few years. And then I stumbled upon QuickBooks around 2010, and I've used it ever since. And I've owned and operated several small businesses in the last 20 plus years. And QuickBooks really worked out well for me. So I don't have the experience with other applications because once I was with QuickBooks, that's where I have stayed. Some of the pros, and I'll touch on about 5 or 6 of them that I have found. Its versatility is fantastic. And you can get QuickBooks in several different formats. You can have a desktop QuickBooks, which stays isolated into your own computer. It's secure, and it can or cannot be your choice, connected with the internet, and you can still download your bank transactions and connect with all your other applications, or you can just keep it in-house and have no access to the internet on it. It also is available in different levels, which are different cost points. Basic beginners is self-employed. That's very inexpensive, but the abilities of it are very limited. And you can go all the way up to an accountant's version, which is what I currently use, which gives you the freedom to do a lot more within the application. And also, it is very connectable with your bank accounts, with your credit cards, with your Square. It is seen on almost all applications, and it integrates very easily. So it's very accessible on any of the applications that you would like to import into your QuickBooks. The 2 versions, desktop versus the online, I am a huge fan of the desktop because I feel that it is very easy to use. I can move around about in it quite easily. The online, while accessible, which is a very good pro for the online, is you can go anywhere and get online and access your QuickBooks. I don't find the online version to be as easy to move about inside of the QuickBooks. So that would be, I guess one of my cons for QuickBooks is that the user friendliness of the desktop and the accessibility of the online version you have to pick and choose which one is more important to you. Another pro is customer service department with Intuit. They are always available, whether it's through a chat or a phone call. They answer quite quickly and they are very helpful. Also, QuickBooks is very user-friendly and you can be self-taught pretty easily if you are aware of the basic accounting features or processes. The con for QuickBooks would be the fact that there is money involved. There is a cost to it. The desktop you could probably get for $200 to $300. And if you're happy with it, you don't necessarily have to upgrade it every year or every 2 years. If it works, it works. I used the same QuickBooks desktop version for probably 5 years before I expanded into payroll and other services that required a more updated version. And a second con I found personally was trying to take the online company and download it into a desktop or shared or saved version on your computer is difficult. We sold one of our businesses, so we no longer needed it ongoing, but within a year or two, I needed it for taxes or other information, and I had to re-up the subscription in order to have the access to my information. So that would be the biggest con, in my opinion, for using QuickBooks online. But for the most part, I am a fan of the QuickBooks.
Right. So Dorothy, you mentioned Square. So what you're saying is that there is a direct interface. So if I use Square as my point of sale system and I can pull my reports, Square can interface with QuickBooks so you can download expenses to put them into the accounting function.
I don't think Square will download expenses except for the merchant service fees. Square will do your income, and you can get that downloaded from Square from your
Okay.
sales. Your bank account is where you want to get your expenses from.
Okay. All right. Very good. Good. All right. Thank you for that, because I do, I also support and promote QuickBooks, but it's not for everybody. I mean, it has different sizes that you can choose from, but I think that it's important to know that there's other options as well. So as we go, I'll get my computer to work here. There we go. So alternative accounting software. So we know there's QuickBooks, but there's also others, and we're going to talk about them today. These are alternative accounting software platforms. Wave is one, Sage, ZipBooks, FreshBooks, and Accounting. These are the 5 we're going to look at today. So where I'd like to begin is to talk about the first one, which is Wave. Wave app is a free and well-integrated business platform, and it combines the accounting function. You can do invoicing, you can do receipt scanning so that you can keep track of your expenses. And it's into one compact and straightforward package. Wave application is an excellent option for small businesses if you are a sole proprietor, sole owner, and have less than 10 employees. So a lot of the functions that you find in QuickBooks, you're going to find here in Wave, which is accounting, invoicing. You can even do some payroll. You can keep track of receipts. It'll do tax calculations and deductions. It gives you your yearly record keeping. It can keep track of those direct deposits, credit card payments, and has full integration. If you do the payroll, it's a nominal fee of $20 a month. They do have a free trial, so you could try it out and have it, but the accounting function itself is free, and the invoicing is free, and receipt scanning is free. So I think if you're a photographer, music teacher, you do private lessons and you want to keep track of things. If you are agriculture and you do farm stand sales. So individuals who, you could be an artist, maybe you sell crochet, maybe you paint pictures. This would be a perfect application because of how it keeps track of things. If you're a sole individual, I would not recommend it if you're, let's say, in manufacturing and you're making widgets that go out the door to the tune of $1,000 a day. This is really intended for the small micro enterprises that have expenses and revenue that they need to keep track of. And even if you hire 1 or 2 people at $20 a month, it makes it a very affordable and palatable application. So consider Wave as an application, as a well-integrated. A little bit to see if you can use it. Do you understand how it works and so on? So that's one option that I would hand off to you. The next one I want to talk about, this is Sage Accounting. And I will tell you that I have a couple of clients that have used this and like it a lot, but they are individual sole owners. So I have a home inspector who's actually my next door neighbor. He uses Sage. And I've had people who own like alpaca farms use Sage for multiple types of income. So they sell the alpaca fur. They get money from a fiber mill. They have tours that they give of the alpaca farm. So they have different revenue centers, and Sage works really well for that. So Sage Accounting is a software for managing your business accounting function as well. It allows you to quickly and easily create and track invoices, track cash flow, which is really important because we all know that cash is king. If you can't keep track of your cash or know where it's going, you could easily run into problems. It allows you to accept payments. It does record transactions. It will automate your administrative function and also capture expenses and much more. So this is not a free software, but it is considerably less. It is priced as low as $10 a month. And depending on the features that vary, it would be up to $25 a month. So that's very reasonable, very inexpensive. So that is another one that I believe offers a free trial, but there's videos on this site where you can actually see a demonstration of how it works. And I would recommend this for folks that are landscapers, home inspectors. If you're a carpenter, plumber, and you have an independent business, I think that this would work very, very well. And again, under 10 employees is what I would recommend for this as well. The next one we're going to talk about is ZipBooks, and that can be found at zipbooks.com. So this particular one as well is a cloud-based accounting software, and it gives you the ability to access your accounting through the internet. So you could be anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, and as long as you have an internet connection, you can get to ZipBooks, as you can with Sage and Wave. And it is designed to be simple and intuitive. So my crafters, I really like something like this for people who are photographers, potters, fiber crafters, people who, create art. And maybe, for example, I have a client that does historical reenactments. And so he gets fees from schools and different places. This would be perfect for him because he just collects fees and then has expenses. And it's pretty much a project by project thing. So this would be a great accounting function, accounting platform for that kind of a business as well. So with ZipBooks, they have a starter plan, and you'll have access so that you can send unlimited invoices or quotes, which is why I think this is also good for anyone that, so maybe you do construction, maybe you're an upholsterer, okay? So someone brings me a Queen Anne chair and I need it upholstered, and I need a quote. So as in my business, I work up that quote, I can send it using ZipBooks, which I like that feature. And they can take that and it can turn into an invoice as well. So connect to your business banking account. You can, add taxes. So for sales tax and things like that, you can apply discounts. It accepts payments by Square or PayPal, which is great. So I could set up a Square account and run credit cards because I don't need a full-blown, if I'm an upholsterer, I don't need a full-blown point of sale system. So getting the Square and just running a credit card, it allows you to take that payment through ZipBooks. And invoice in multiple currencies. So if you have Canadian clients that come and need a chair upholstered or something like that, it would help with that. It'll track unlimited customer and vendor details. So there's going to be a profile for vendors and for customers so that you can fill that data in, things like their name, address, their telephone number, email address, and so on. It can also record 1099 payments. So let's say I get a big job to reupholster an entire, like maybe the Eastman house wants to have 14 chairs done, but I can't do it all by myself. And I bring someone in that's another upholsterer. I'm not going to put them on payroll, but I will 1099 them. So I can keep track of that expense and have that 1099 go out. So I can even collaborate with other people, other businesses, and have that function through ZipBooks for a 1099. Store and track receipts, manage bookkeeping with your chart of accounts. Now, chart of accounts, that's an accounting term, which is a list of all the accounts that include the balance sheet as assets, liabilities, equity, income, gross profit, all of your expenses, EBIT, which is earnings before interest and taxes. That chart of accounts is really important because when you're wanting to categorize an expense, you need an account number and a name of what that account is. Your chart of account is your reference point to do that. So I like this function in ZipBooks where you get the chart of account and manage your bookkeeping with that chart. It generates basic reports of profit and loss, your balance sheet, and you can switch between cash and accrual. Again, two accounting terms. So cash basis accounting means that you're going to recognize the sale or revenue at the time that you receive the cash, where accrual would be you're going to send an invoice and not get paid for 30 days. So understanding what is a cash basis accrual, cash basis accounting system versus accrual are two things that you need to understand. We'll cover that in the next workshop that we're going to do in October. And these are common accounting terms that you need to become familiar with as a business owner, because you don't necessarily do the books, but you need to understand the books and where expenses belong, where assets belong, and so on. So in ZipBooks, you can switch between cash and accrual reporting. There's a company dashboard, and you can integrate other software, which in this case is Slack, Gusto, which I'm not totally familiar with, but it is an option. And you can customize that chart of account as well. Now, this is not free, but it is as low as $15 a month with a starter package. Throat's getting dry. Okay. Next up, we have FreshBooks accounting. You can find this at freshbooks.com. And I just want to say you will be getting these slides, so all this information will be in there. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry here. So again, with FreshBooks, this is an accounting tool that can help you make choices based on your actual business data. Set aside enough for tax time, understand the cost of running your business, find out if you have money to hire. And it does include your balance sheet, your general ledger, which is chart of accounts, your accounts payable, trial balance, which is great because when you run the trial balance, another accounting term, it's going to show all of the accounts and what went into those accounts on your debit side and everything in your credit side. That is for reconciliation purposes at the end of the month, and your bookkeeper or your accountant will use that trial balance in reconciling the month end. It'll help keep track of cost of goods sold, or COGS. That's another accounting term. So cost of goods sold is going to be calculated to identify for every item that you sold, what was your cost, what was the cost to the business, so that you can calculate your gross profit. It gives you the chart of accounts, and it also allows you to do journal entries. This is also priced very low. It's just, for what they give you, this is a nominal amount. It start up at $6 a month. They recommend this for construction, independent small business owners, people with maybe 10 employees or less again. So while it's not free, it is definitely very cost effective and gives you all the tools that you need to understand whether you're making money or you're losing money. And this little picture here with the kitty cat, I only put that up there for one reason, and that's because it looks like my cat. So I thought that was cute. All right. Last but not least is accounting. Now, this is an open source, free accounting software. Open source means that it's available to everybody. It's available for free. It is an online accounting software, and it's specifically designed for small businesses to manage their finances, as these other ones have as well. The difference is this one is completely free, and you could use this maybe to get started or try accounting. It gives you invoicing. It helps you stay on top of your cash flow. It's very easy to use and has easy to use interfaces. It's available on your mobile phone or a tablet, and it's multilingual. So if I'm running, if my family is originally from, Japan or China or Mexico or something, and I'm bilingual, I might speak 3 languages. So if I'm from Canada, I might speak English, French, and I also might speak Spanish. It will allow for multilingual. Thank you. it will allow for multilingual administrative and client panels. So I think that is in and of itself a great opportunity for businesses that might be a Mexican restaurant, a Middle Eastern restaurant. You know, it just gives you that flexibility. Specifically designed for small business, it's 100% financial data ownership, which means that even though it's open source, it's not going to take ownership of your data, which you do have to be careful with some things that are completely free, because they'll give it to you free, but when you read these terms of service, it will say that this is data that's now owned by the platform. So you have to be careful of that. And it is free for a lifetime, and all of your updates are free. So accounting, I think this is a great opportunity, especially if people don't understand a lot about accounting, that it will give you a chance to try things out and so on. Okay, so that is the 5 that I wanted to talk about. So we have QuickBooks, all right, and we talked about Wave and Sage and ZipBooks and these 5. So what I want you to do, and you will get these slides, I'd like you to search for a little more in these platforms. So maybe go to the Wave website, go to all of these websites and just watch their videos. Maybe make a matrix of the things you liked about it, what it offered you, so that you can have some criteria to decide which one is best for my business. You know, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to the accounting function. I can tell you that if I'm a manufacturing company with an inventory of raw materials that then I put together to make an inventory of units for sale, I need something a little bit more complex than if I'm creating art and selling it at a farm market, where each transaction is just about what I've created. So the purpose of these 5 introductions of these accounting applications is so that you have some options to understand what it is that you need for your business. So you'll look at each one of these, note the results of things you like, make a little matrix, and then trial these options. Go in there and just try them. But I want to caution you that if you click free trial, make sure that you understand that it might become an automatic debit of $6 a month if you don't cancel before the time frame. So A, read the criteria for the free trial very well. Make sure that you put it on your calendar 3 to 5 days before the expiration of the trial to either accept it or terminate it. All right, so be responsible with that. Talk to your accountant, bookkeeper, whoever's going to be responsible for your book. So if that means it's mom, I'm going to have my mother do the books because she's has her own record keeping system. Still have that business conversation to talk about which one is best for you, and then decide on which one you want to use, and then come to the webinar in October so that we can talk about accounting function, vocabulary, things you need to know as a business owner when using these applications. Okay, so with that, let me give you some resources. Now, I went into the catalog at the Monroe County Library, and I have the library URL address here. You can actually go in and look at them yourself. So the Accounting for Dummies, I've actually used this to teach with this. It's a pretty good comprehensive layman term description and introduction to accounting. I think the biggest problem with accounting is people say, I could never do accounting because I'm very bad at math. Well, the reason I like accounting is because I was never great at math, but it gives me checks and balances so I can catch mistakes right away. And if I can do accounting, trust me, anybody can do accounting. And I spent probably a good 20 years of my life in accounting offices as corporate controller. I've been a property controller for the hospitality industry. I've been a chief accountant. So I've worked the accounting function, and I can tell you that it's very logical, and it's really about understanding things like how to categorize expense and understanding assets and liabilities. So these resources here, Accounting Demystified is another good one. Bookkeepers Boot Camp, Exploring Basic Accounting. It's a tutorial. And there's also some really, really good YouTube channels that talk about accounting as support. So I've had quite a few of my clients find YouTube channel presenters that talk about specific accounting function, and it's been very helpful as a tutorial as they work their business and think about how they accurately, and that's the whole thing. We want you to accurately understand your revenue, your expenses, profitability. We want you to understand assets, cash in the bank, inventory, equipment, what is depreciation. All right, these are all important things that you need to have some understanding of. Now, if you're running your business, you hand off this function to a full charge bookkeeper like Dorothy Daniels, or your accountant or CPA. And that's great, but you still have to know how to read it. When we took a look at how embezzlement happens, it's usually when the owner hands everything to the bookkeeper or the internal record keeper, and because I'm not looking at it, oh, I just trust that person. Well, and then you have things that show up and you're losing money and you don't know why. So it teaches, reading the numbers every month, reconciling the bank statement every single month is essential to maintaining your cash flow, understanding your profitability, knowing what your expenses are so that you can explore cost-cutting measures if necessary. And it helps you to understand your business a lot better as well. So I would encourage you to check out these accounting books, check out YouTube videos that talk about the accounting function, go to the different applications that we presented here today, see which one works for you, and by all means, go to the Rochester City Library Business Insight Center, where you can get additional assistance for your business. Now, with that, let me also tell you that if you're interested in making an appointment with the Small Business Development Center, you would go to our statewide website, which is nysbdc.org, and you click on Make an Appointment and fill in the registration, or you can call 395-8410. That's our main office here. I'm physically located at the MCC downtown campus, but we have we're only seeing clients through Zoom and telephone right now until we get clearance for one-on-one. But I would encourage you, even if it's a one-time visit, if you have questions about your business, how to do a business plan, we have a lot of resources that we can help you with. So with that, let's take some questions and see what we have up there. Melissa, are you going to do that?
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go from the beginning, the first questions, and go down the list. I use Quicken for personal finances. Would you say that Quicken has the same benefits of QuickBooks?
I'm going to yield that to Dorothy because she uses it exactly the same way for her personal. So Dorothy, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I also use Quicken for my personal finances. I find that it works quite well, and I use QuickBooks for all my businesses. So I think that it's the same benefits, although I don't have the same needs with my personal bookkeeping as I do with my business bookkeeping. And I'm probably still working off of Quicken 2016 because I haven't felt the need to update it because it's not broken and it serves all my purposes. But I would definitely not, well, I haven't even considered using Quicken for business. QuickBooks for business is the way to go.
Thank you.
Okay. If you use QuickBooks Desktop Pro beyond its support lifetime, do you lose connectivity to your bank?
Dorothy.
No, you can go to your bank's online site and download your transactions into your QuickBooks. You wouldn't lose that connectivity with the desktop.
Okay, which software would you recommend for an ice cream shop?
I think Wave or Sage would be good. I think Sage would be my first choice on that. How many employees though? Do we know how many employees? It would depend on how many employees you have. I think if you had, more than 5, 10 I just think that depending on what your payroll requirements are, should probably determine whether or not you would use one application over the other. But again, I encourage you to look at them all, create a matrix, figure out which one has the features. You might even want to do that with your bookkeeper and just identify what are the things that are important. Do you only need to keep track of revenue expense? If you're not going to have any employees, I might go with one of the open source free ones, like accounting. So I think that's the decision you have to make, and look at the specifics of the offerings of each software and figure out for your business, what are the elements I need to keep track of my accounting function accurately, and which one for the size of my business.
Okay, there actually was a second part to the connectivity bank question. And it says, hi, Gina, would you please be sure to mention for each software option whether there are on-demand customizable financial statements, cash flow, balance sheet, income statements by product line?
I think each of them that I showed you gives you the cash flow. I'd have to go back through. I haven't worked each of these. I've gone through and I've looked at their features, but I haven't actually gone and trialed them, each one. So as far as which ones are customizable, I know that QuickBooks is very customizable. And I know that Sage and Wave have some customizable features to them, so that you can, put the names in. Those that have trial balances and with the chart of accounts is going to allow you to name those. So I would again encourage you to go and look into each one of those. And you can also call a representative. You can chat with a representative and specifically ask questions within the website of these 5 that I presented.
Okay. Do any offer inventory management features?
Yeah, I think we pointed to that. Let me. I think I had presented that each one of these, let's see, my computer is not working. Here we go. All right, so when we took a look at Wave, all right, Wave had invoicing. All right, so Wave, I saw invoicing, payroll, and so on, but I didn't see inventory control. ZipBooks, I believe, gave us options for inventory. So you're going to have the slides here. And again, going back to the website, each one of the platforms is going to have that for you. So again, go to each website, look at the functions that they provide, build your matrix, chat with people in their customer service areas. Most of them have chats. So like Wave, let me look at Sage here. Wave, Sage. Invoicing, tracking cash, accepting payments. So I think for the most part, the ones that are lighter without maybe integrated cost of goods and inventory and that type of thing, QuickBooks is going to give you a full plethora of resources and function. All right, so I'd say that if you need a lot of that, then it might be good to take a look at QuickBooks. But ZipBooks looked fairly integrated as well. Expenses, let me just go back through here. Yeah. So in pulling the data from these websites as I research them, the main functions that are presented for these low cost accounting application alternatives, I'm seeing balance sheet and general ledger. So in the balance sheet, you're going to have cash, you're going to have receivables, you're going to have inventory. So I'd say probably most of them would.
Okay.
What's the next question?
In QuickBooks Desktop Pro, can you choose cash or accrual? You could choose cash or accrual, but aren't you practically speaking locked in, not by the software per se, once you've made your choice?
Dorothy?
I would say yes. I would say yes. If you were going to change your system after you've been running your business for a while, it would be very difficult to do. So you kind of are locked into whatever. I mean, you don't have to be, you can change it, but I think it would be labor intensive. And maybe try it out when you're first running with QuickBooks and make sure it is what you want, whatever you choose.
Okay, can you use Clover with QuickBooks?
I'm not that familiar with Clover, so I don't know. Dorothy, do you know Clover? Is that a point of sale system?
I'm not familiar with
I'm
Clover.
not familiar with it either, but we could certainly check. So if you wanted to,
Google says yes.
Google says yes. Well, then it must be.
Yes.
Okay.
And with QuickBooks integration, they have ways of integrating something that maybe isn't already set up or easily integratable. There's always ways that you can use other apps to bring your information into QuickBooks.
Okay, the ice cream business opened the floodgates because we have a bunch of questions of what would you recommend for different businesses? So what software would you recommend for a cleaning business?
Again, it's going to depend on whether you need payroll service or not. So I currently have a client where it's just a husband and wife team. They're organized as a limited liability company, just the two of them, and they don't need payroll. So they're going to use Sage. And that's because it gives them, they're paid cash at the time. They go to a commercial place, they get the check inside of a day. So there's no accrual. So it's going to be cash basis business. So they're going to use Sage. Cleaning business, I would say anything that's a small type of business. So I could be cleaning, I could be a plow landscape service, I could be an independent home inspector with just myself. So when I'm operating independently as a sole owner, as a business, then I think Sage or Wave would be very appropriate for that.
Okay, we also have what software would be the best if you were an entertainer?
Entertainer as in performance. You know, you have a band, you have, again, you could use the open source if you're an entertainer and you're just getting a check and you're just making deposits and covering your expenses for travel, lodging, food, gas or mileage. Something simple would be fine because you typically, now I know this firsthand because my husband's a performer and he has several bands that play at weddings, Oktoberfest, different things. He gets paid at the time that they show up. And so that cash is right there. And then it's just by the gig, whatever the expenses are. So if he's got gas mileage or if he had to purchase music, things of that sort. So just simple revenue and expense, which is your Schedule C for a sole owner, makes it very simple. So Wave, Sage, open source, accounting, I think anything that's that simple, I'd go with a free source, free open source at that point. Because trust me, performers and entertainers don't need extra expense. They need all the cash they can get.
Which software is best for a startup business where you're selling items on various platforms, including some online, such as Etsy, and rent a section of retail space to have a physical location?
You're going to need inventory control, I'm guessing at that point. So I'd probably look at maybe a basic startup QuickBooks or ZipBooks, because you are going to have inventory control. And if you're creating these products, so for example, I do fiber arts, I crochet. So I have my supplies there with yarns and notions and things like that, which is creating maybe a poncho or a hat or something, and I'm selling that. So I've got raw material inventory to keep track of. I've got when that's exploded into a product, I've got that inventory to take care of. So I might want something a little bit more sophisticated if I'm selling on different platforms, because those are revenue centers. You're going to want to know where did the money come from? If it came from Etsy, I might want a revenue center for Etsy or Pinterest, maybe website, my own personal website where people are, sorry, I have sensors on my lights. So I would think, I would answer that question by taking a look at how many different elements go into selling on those platforms. If you have one thing that you're selling and you're buying it from a place and just reselling it, then you can go with something a little bit more simple. But if you have inventory, a little bit more complexity in the inventory control part, then I'd say, yeah, maybe you need something a little more like the basic QuickBooks, or maybe ZipBooks or the open source. I hope that helped. I hope all this helps. The whole point of this is to help you.
Okay, here's the last software recommendation question. What would you recommend for construction management business with 5 to 6 employees in which we would hire independent contractors or vendors?
Actually, this screen right here, FreshBooks Accounting, was designed for the construction industry so that you can understand costs and do quotes and things like that. So maybe I'd start with FreshBooks and take a look at the options in there. That's why I have the construction and lumberyard, because in their platform, they talk about having this as a function for independent construction folks. So look at it, make sure it meets the need. Again, you're going to look at it, go to the websites, look at the features, and then figure out which one is going to be best for you.
Okay, I missed out part of lecture. Could you review again the benefits of cash versus accrual accounting? Just a reminder that this presentation will be posted on YouTube in full.
Right. So when we talk about whether a business is going to be cash-based or whether they're going to be an accrual-based accounting function is really determined at the time that the revenue comes in. So if I'm a retail store and someone comes in and they're buying something out of my store and they pay me cash, all right, I'm going to recognize that sale at the time of payment. All right, so I book it as cash in the bank, and then I'm going to credit revenue. With accrual systems, I go and let's say, I have to invoice someone for it. So I get a job as a presenter and I'm going to deliver a executive webinar to a business. Well, they're not going to hand me a check when I get there. We'll have a contract, and the contract will say that I need payment in 10 days. So I give them an invoice. It goes to their accounts payable system. They cut the check and they send it to me. But at the date, so let's say I presented this particular webinar or presentation to the business on December 31st, and I'm on a calendar year, and I do that invoice. All right, I'm recognizing that revenue when the invoice is cut. All right, but I'm not actually getting paid until 10 or 30 days later. But I can still recognize that income at the time that I delivered service. So cash and accrual is going to depend on the type of business you have, what the terms of your business are. So if I'm an executive speaker and I go around the country doing presentations and I hand them an invoice at the end, I'm going to do accrual. But retail is typically a cash basis because they come in, they buy it, and it's cash. So whether it's physical cash or whether they paid with a credit card, you receive payment at the time of the sale. So I'm recognizing the revenue at the time I got paid. These are accounting things that matter in terms of understanding whether you should be cash or accrual, and things you work out with your bookkeeper or your accountant. Did that help?
I have a comment on that, Gina.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the reasons why I feel with the accrual versus cash is also with expenses. If I was to write, say, my property tax, my school tax in September, and it's a few $1,000s, I don't want that few $1,000s to be expensed only in September. I want it to be expensed for the most part every month, so that the profit and loss for each month is appropriate for big payments that are maybe made annually or semi-annually. So I think we lost Gina for a minute.
There's one problem with drinking during a live presentation. You can go down the wrong pipe. So sorry.
Okay, thank you for affirming that you can always manually download statements. I'd like to clarify my earlier question about QuickBooks Desktop Pro Connectivity and ask, do you lose the automatic bank to QuickBooks upload connectivity when you, after support life, as is the case with Quicken?
I'll take that one. I would imagine so. I don't know that for a fact, but I would imagine so. If it's got to integrate with tax tables, if you're running payroll, you're going to want, like with payroll subscriptions, because you have to integrate with tax tables, you have to have an updated QuickBooks, whether you're desktop or online. So I would imagine that you would lose the connectivity through the internet if they were no longer servicing that product.
We have another software recommendation. What would you recommend for a small bookkeeping company that will do the bookkeeping for other small businesses?
Dorothy?
Yeah, I can take this. I have a bookkeeping company and I use QuickBooks for accountants. And it allows you to do books for, I believe, up to 50 clients. And it is a fantastic program that allows you to have accounting tools that are not accessible to the regular business person who uses QuickBooks.
Okay, last question in the chat. Can you recommend an accountant reasonable for a small business?
All right, that's a loaded question because I don't have an accountant. Here's the thing you have to understand. There's accountants that need to do the interpretation of the financial statements, and then there's record keeping. For a small business, what I recommend is that you look for someone that fits your company. So if you can afford maybe $350 a month for a sustained accounting fee, and you have the complexity of a business that requires that, then you'd have to sit down with an accountant, talk about their services, see what you can afford. But quite honestly, for most small businesses, what they need is a full charge bookkeeper, someone who understands how to keep track of all of the transactions and be able to provide information and feedback, but then all of it goes to an accountant who may be the tax accountant. So I think that it's going to be dependent on the type of business you have. And I would recommend talking to CPA firms, accountants, people like Dorothy, who have record keeping businesses, and fit it to your business and your budget. We don't make recommendations at the SBDC, primarily because what's good for one client may not be good for another, but there are various sites that you can get to see who is in the area. Another good tip for finding that out is if you belong to networking groups. For example, the Canal Trailblazers in Fairport, they meet twice a month. And these networking groups, you can collaborate and talk with other members. Who are you using? Why do you like them? And you get referrals and recommendations from people who are actually engaged in those services that might be able to give you some feedback. So I do recommend that you join networking groups. Even groups on Facebook are very helpful for your industry, because keep in mind, it is not a one size fits all. All right, so accountants that typically handle hospitality type businesses, so hotels, maybe restaurants, may have an acumen and an understanding, because quite frankly, the accounting function for a hotel is different than just regular GAAP accounting procedures because of things and functions that happen within a hotel when booking big events and so on. it was one of the first things I had to learn when I worked in that industry, is that the accounting is a little bit different. So you want a person who is familiar with your industry, that understands the nuances of the industry. So I don't think that if I do general accounting for small business and mostly crafters, if I'm in construction, I may not want that particular person because they don't know that much about accounting. Because remember, these people are not just keeping track of your accounting, they're also going to provide you feedback and advice in terms of questions that you may have that come up. Maybe you're thinking of buying an additional business that'll complement the business you already have. Maybe you're looking at cash flow or going to the bank and needing some different services. So the people that you have as your resources, your bookkeeper, your accountant, your lawyer, your insurance person, I call it the bail team. So, you know, there's resources beyond just the function of debits and credits. You want them as feedback and as a partner in helping you possibly to make decisions and to guide you in the business function, because it is an ongoing journey. And so making that fit, who is the best accountant or the best bookkeeper for my business, my type of business? If I'm in photography, I want someone that understands that industry a little bit more. If I have an epitaxial wafer manufacturing plant, I might need a whole firm. So this is on you as a business owner to figure out what the fit is, what you can afford in your budget, what services and what else they can bring to the table, so that you get the best fit for the type of services that you need. I hope that helps.
Okay, another question came in, and this might be a question for October's presentation, but can you invoice and bookkeep with cash accrual, book money when or if received? And if yes, can you still book real estate taxes by accrual? And then there's a second part later. To clarify, I was asking if you can do cash for invoicing and accrual for large expenses, or does this variation in booking income outgo violate the laws of accounting physics?
Okay, so generally we look at the generally accepted accounting practices, and you are either cash or accrual. Now, sometimes there is a bit of a hybrid in there, but for the most part, if you're collecting real estate taxes, you know, I would say that you need to be, I can't say because I don't know the whole story here, but you are either going to be cash or accrual. And while in a cash basis, there may be some accrual in there, the reality is that it's going to be based on GAAP and, you know, the type of business that you have. But my answer to that is no. Dorothy, you want to chime in on that?
Dorothy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I would agree with what Gina said. However, I know working with QuickBooks, it can be manipulated to fit your needs. I mean, not manipulated where it would be incorrect.
Illegal.
Yeah, I don't mean you can do illegal things. I'm just saying there's always ways to get what you want done within the parameters of the legality of it. But for the most part, you should pick one or the other.
Okay, the last couple questions was just answered in chat, but I'll answer it again. If you had registered for the program, the slides will be emailed to you. And the lecture presentation will be posted on YouTube in the future. Does anybody have any more questions?
So hopefully we will see you all next month for the accounting presentation. And thank you for coming.
Okay, I think this concludes Business First Wednesday for September. And I'd like to thank Gina and Dorothy for speaking with us. And hopefully we'll see you next month for part 2. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
How below?